Hello, this will be an hour long version, roughly. I'm doing this for the people that will be watching it on Spotify, etc. So if you're just joining, forgive me while I try and get the camera thing sorted. I'm normally much better with cameras, honestly. So yeah, I thought I'd do a live chat with people asking questions about ghosts and spirits. Yesterday I did a live chat, ended up 4 hours, about the Anunnaki and the Bible. The Anunnaki being aliens, and the Bible actually talking about the Anunnaki. And it started off with obviously people saying God this, God that, blah blah blah, which is fine. But as the time went on, and they actually stayed to listen, albeit they wanted to try and say that I'm wrong. The actual the way it changed was those that after I was given information, because obviously they would say to me things like, "Who created the aliens if it wasn't God?" And then I would say, "Well, who created God?" So that got rid of that sort of argument. But I was pointing out things that the Bible, the original Bibles, not the British versions that's converted, the original texts. I was pointing out things that that they couldn't refute, and I think in the end, I won over a lot of people that were believers in an almighty being that then realised that we'd been lied to by the people that's changed the Bible. So it was a good debate yesterday. But I have got a new debate coming up on the 16th of July at 5 p.m. with an actual person live. So you've got to join in on that one. So I am chatting to someone who believes the Bible, not just text, but she's actually going to be coming on as a guest, and we're going to be talking about. I'll be referring to obviously the ancient tablets, which is where the Bible got it from, and she will be trying to tell me that there's an almighty being, even though the Bible originally talked about plural. So it's going to be a fascinating. You're going to have to join in 5 p.m. July the 16th. Evening Peach, who's just joined. Jamie's wrote, "Is the Earth flat or spherical?" It's round. It's written as round in ancient texts, so we've got that to go by. But also, I've done videos. I've done one particular video that had 10 simple questions. For example, how does Halley's Comet work with the firmament, supposedly a dome? And I've copied that link, and I've gone to that question was from Jamie, and I've gone to people, real supporters of the flat Earth, and I've put up my link and said, "Can you just answer one of these 10 simple questions?" And they go and watch it. I can tell it says such and such watched your link that you left, but then they delete my message because they can't answer it. So the easiest way to ask whether or not something's round or not is just, flat Earth, is just to say to people, show me a picture of behind Australia, the edge. Don't show me Antarctica. Show me behind Australia. And they can't. They'll point you back to Antarctica. But yeah, so that's really that. Jane has wrote, "Hi, I'm back for another listen." Oh, bless you. I was only doing. I got like an hour or so spare, and I thought I'd before I go and watch the very last Stranger Things episode, and I thought I'd just do a different one because I know people actually say to me that they listen to them on Spotify when I put the live chats up, and I haven't put up a live chat recently for a while, and I put the one that I did yesterday about the Bible and that on my Patreon page only because I know some people get upset by this whole, the thought that the Bible is actually talking about aliens. So I didn't want to upset too many people. But thank you for coming back. Hamish, I'm only going to read it out because they're very kind. Hamish has wrote, "Yeah, a ghost came in last night, tucked me in, played some Xbox, and got my work uniform out. And you are absolutely amazing speaker. Please continue. I'm sorry for being a numpty." Oh, Hamish, or ham, as ham sandwich. No wonder why you're called ham sandwich. No problem at all. Thank you for the kind words. I do love it when people realise they're in the wrong. Russell's wrote, I've seen Ghost in Yorkshire Hotel 30 or so years ago. Hotel didn't hide the fact. Well, funny you should actually say that. I don't know if you're aware of this, but when you sell a house in the UK, you have to declare whether or not it's haunted, which is quite an amazing thing, really, because obviously that then brings the spirits into a legal capacity. What kind of ghost was it you saw? Was it sort of a humanoid figure, or was it sort of like a orb type effect? I'd be interested to know. I'm guessing it's nighttime because, as we all know, spirits can't handle the light. Whether it's to do with photons or frequency or whatever it is, but spirits or light energy beings can't deal with that, which is why seances are done at night, and which is why they come out at night, because the frequency of the light frequency, for whatever reason, affects them. Manons wrote, are there animal ghosts? Yes. Now, I have to sort of caveat that. So I've spoke to, I don't know if you've listened to me before, but I have spoke to clairvoyants, mediums, spiritualists, loads. I've paid loads to ask hundreds of questions about such things. So when it comes to animals, animals that can have the light energy being joined with them are the ones that end up having a spirit, e.g. becoming a ghost. So, for example, I'm just going to throw one out there. A wow may not have the ability to take to host the light energy being that joins with them, as we do when we are 3 to 4 months in the mother's womb. Now, generally, it's believed that the I forgot the name, just slipped out of my head there. That's unusual for me. Oh wow, it's really gone. I'm struggling now. Oh God, you know the name of it. It's the third eye, what we call the third eye. Oh wow, I can't remember it. Sorry about this, folks. Pineal gland. There we are. Sorry. So yeah, the pineal gland. So it's generally assumed that the pineal gland is where the light energy being joins with, and if an animal such as a dog or a cat has a pineal gland, which I think they do, then that's why we get spirits from them. So yes, the answer is to some degree, according to mediums, etc. Some animals can have ghosts. Chris has wrote, how can you possibly know that? The question about the start of the universe. I was hoping someone would ask that, actually. So well done, Chris. Go to the top of the class. So what that's based on is what they call the Lost Book. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which are ancient Egyptian writings that's been translated by a few different people over hundreds, if not thousands of years. And it basically says that the light energy beings, and it talks about them, which is fantastic, because that's exactly what the people have seen and exactly what clairvoyants say. Sorry, my little boys.
Help.
Oh, Clark. Sorry. You know I'm doing a live chat.
Sorry,
his Roku remote looks like his battery's dead.
Ask him, help me.
Yes, I'm asking. Yeah, right, okay, you go back in your room.
Thank you.
I'll sort you out in 5 minutes, okay?
Bye.
Alright, bye. Yeah, so the Emerald Tablets of Thoth literally describe that the creatures, well, I say creatures, entities, maybe, probably a better word, have said to Thoth that they were created at the moment of our universe being created. So if you believe that the Emerald Tablets of Thoth are actually talking sensible, and bear in mind these are translations talking about the halls of Amenta, afterlife, and all this kind of stuff that we kind of only really know now about orbs and how they join with us. But if you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, it literally explains. Thank you for the hearts, whoever's doing that. It literally explains how the larger orbs are the ones. There's two apparent larger ones. Then you've got slightly smaller ones, still big. And some of those, 7 of those, are what I call the Council of Aliens, which are the Council of 7, which are the ones that give the spirit the job. So, in other words, one of them. This is all written in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. It literally tells us what we need to know. It's fantastic. And one of them will be in charge of, who you'll go in to join. One will be in charge of your career path. Or the spirit's career path. And when I say career path, it's not like, oh, you're going to get a job, this, that, and the other. It's to make sure that the spirit learns what it needs to learn. And there's 7 of them. It lists out in that ancient text the 7 Council of 7, if you want to call them that, their jobs over the smallest, and when I say smallest, the tennis ball sized light orbs. So the answer, I guess, to your question is, how do we know that? If you go and you believe the Tablets of Thoth, and I do, because after talking to, I don't know, it's got to be hundreds of clairvoyants, mediums and spiritualists, and listening to Christ knows how many thousand more on TV, on radio stations and all sorts of things, that the ancient texts literally nail it as far as I'm concerned. So I kind of agree that whatever caused the Big Bang or creation of the universe or whatever it is, there's no reason why these things didn't get created at that moment in time. And of course, if you ask clairvoyants, mediums, spiritualists, etc., they say that these light beings are immortal until until a nuclear weapon can actually destroy them. So that's why the Greys stop us using nukes. Doberto Carlos has just got here. I'm open-minded. What's the evidence? Well, so the evidence would be from the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, but obviously then we've got the other evidence of spirits themselves. I mean, I did a Ouija board, asked the question in my head, and it went. In other words, I didn't ask the question out loud, and it went. I'm being brief here, but and it went straight to the answers. I did it 6 times in my head, and only I would have known what I was asking. So, to me, if you've done something like that, then there's absolutely no denying it. From my point of view. Shut up, Shannon's wrote hello again. Hi, thank you for joining. I was only going to do a quickie today, but thank you for coming in. 419 IDs wrote, if ghosts were present at the beginning, who died? Fool. I do love it when people be rude to me, because I get told off for being rude back to the people that's rude to me. It's kind of weird. So I'll reread that properly now. 419 IDs wrote, if ghosts were present at the beginning, who died? I do love your chats. You are amazing. Oh, thank you. So it's a chicken and egg scenario. The light energy beings, at that point, there was no one for them to join. You've got to remember, these light energy beings are eternal. If you was eternal and you had the chance to learn and join with a physical body, even if it's brief in the eternal life that you have, you would do it as a respite, really, as a way of breaking the monotony of being eternal. Fool. So yeah, numpty. Sorry, Nathan's wrote. So what are ghosts then? Because obviously they can't only be dead people. Good question. You're right. They're not only dead people. So basically, there's light energy beings which are you can call them spirits. I call them spirits when they've joined with someone and then that person's died. So it's just like a hard drive. You imprint onto this entity, and when you die, you are in control of that entity. So you can fly here, fly there, come knock on someone's door and scare people and all that stuff. And eventually you then cross over as a spirit to the next plane of existence. So there's different planes, different levels. When you go to the next plane of existence, you cease to be you, and the energy orb entity takes back control, and now your life that you had is just another one of its memories now. So when that light energy being goes back round and joins another person, thank you for the hearts. When that light energy being goes back round and joins another person, that person, if that person has a hypno regression, they would bring up your life and they'll say, "Oh, I used to be a person that listened to Our True History on," but no, that new person that's remembering that life wasn't the same person. It's just literally the entity that you're recalling the information from. So it's that, so if you had regression now and said, "Oh, you used to be a farmer in China," for example, no, you was never. You are you right now. That's it. There's only one of you. Your memory, or the memory you're recalling, is of a farmer that was in China, for example, based off of the light energy beings. So yeah, so if you see an orb, chances are it's an orb that's not been connected with someone, or it is, as long as it's the size of a tennis ball. The larger ones, such as the ones that create the crop circles, they are tennis balls size. They're still spirits of some description, just like the Emerald Tablets of Thoth say, but they are a higher. They're basically already learnt what they needed to learn, and they seem to be doing things differently. In other words, they're not joining with us to learn; they're doing other things. I don't exactly know what they're doing, but they are doing other things and not joining with people, if that makes sense. P.S. has wrote, evil spirits are real, don't mess with them. Yes, I'm guessing you're referring to the jinn as such. And also, obviously, you've got, if you died and you're sort of a sick individual, then if you have enough, everything that they do is manifestation on the other side. So to turn a light on and off, to move a penny, to do anything, they have to use a manifestation thing, and it takes a lot of energy from them. This is what clairvoyants say. So sorry, that was my battery popping up. Sorry, I hate that when that happens. It throws me right off. Yeah, sorry, that's threw me right off there. Doers wrote, "Have you heard the ghost tape theory?" Someone asked me that the other day or a while back. I can't remember. I've heard a lot of things, but sometimes people add names to them later on, if that makes sense. Like firmament, for example, I know it as atmosphere. Somehow someone come along and decided it was an impenetrable dome that meteorites can't get through, even though we've got evidence of meteorites hitting the Earth, in fact, big craters. So, I don't know. Lisa has wrote, "I actually witnessed an exorcism." Wow, that would have been scary. So with the exorcism, thank you for the hearts, whoever's doing. You don't have to. With an exorcism, that's slightly different from. So the jinn, for example, which are another light energy being, and probably dark energy if you want to be more descriptive, they will take over a person. They need a person to be at their lowest to be able to take over. In other words, they need to be able to get in, either push out the original light energy being or join in there at the same time. But to do that, they need to get past your chakra. Now, when a priest will go in, what they'll do, and trust me, I've spoken to the exorcism people, and I've listened to hundreds of exorcism people. What they do is, before the good ones, they go in, if they can, and they ask for their guardian spirits. Now, there's not guardian angels, because we all know an angel is literally an extraterrestrial, which is the Anunnaki. but the guardian spirit, so there is such a thing as a guardian spirit, that's on the third level up. So when I said earlier that when you die, you cross over to sort of level 1, when that's had enough and it crosses over to level 2, it repeats back round in the circle, which is why you get reincarnation. And then once it's learnt enough, it moves on to level 3 and they become guardian spirits. So a priest or whoever doing the exorcism, if they can, they call up their spirit guides before they even enter the house. And so from their descriptions, they walk in and their spirit guides attack the entity that's inside the person that's got the issues. And hopefully the good, I say good energy, light energy beings, but I mean, I don't know whether they're good. They're just doing their thing, really. But we'll call them good for the sake of an argument. The good ones will hopefully win and push out the jinn or whatever other type of entity that's in there. It's not normally a person. It's not normally a dead person that then possesses someone else. So I think people think that if you die, you can then go and possess someone else and turn them into almost like a zombie type thing. And it doesn't seem to be that. It doesn't seem to be a person doing it. It seems to be another entity on its own, such as the jinn. Jah has wrote, well, light is black. Don't get me started on frequencies of light. Sorry, I don't know how. Lise, I don't know what that's. Has wrote skinwalkers. It's a tricky one with the skinwalkers because technically they supposedly are a physical being, because people say that they've physically seen them change from a lion to a man or whatever it is that they've physically seen them change into. So if they were a spirit of some sort, then I doubt if you'd see them in that way as clear as sort of the native Indians used to say that they'd see skinwalkers. So I think skinwalkers, in my opinion, if they are real, I think they come from a different dimension. Jah has wrote, reflective light is what illuminates. I'm not sure where we're going with that. Toran has wrote, the dust floating around your room isn't ghosts, with a little clown face. And then that same person wrote, you are amazing, keep doing what you're doing. Oh, thank you. Now, some numpties, I'm not going to mention any names, Toran, some numpties actually think that when you use a night vision camera and you see dust floating around your room, that they think that everyone thinks that the dust that's floating around, because you can actually see it really clearly on night vision cameras, is orbs. However, some numpties haven't actually watched videos of real orbs that actually can even split into two and still stay the same size, and have control and go through walls. There's videos actually of security cameras outside a church and inside a church, and an orb comes flying halfway up the building through the wall and actually continues from the inside camera night vision right through the building and goes out the other wall. Now, as far as I'm aware, dust doesn't do that. So when Toran puts a little clown face, I drop the mic. Sorry to make you look stupid. Dan has wrote, are ghosts dead people or specific types of energy if in certain places? Now, there is some talk that not everyone has a soul, a spirit that joins with them for whatever reason, whether they run out or they just don't get one. So the answer to your question is ghosts. If you see a ghost, then it's a dead person or a dead animal or a dead something. Yes. If you see an orb, it could be a dead person, just not manifesting itself back into its original shape, or it could just be an orb that's not joined with anyone yet. It's joined with someone before, went to the second plane, and is now floating around for whatever reason. Now, that the reason why they can stay around, orbs like that, is because they are part of a soul group. And now I've counted 6. Now there may be more, but I've counted 6 as a soul group from everything that I've done. Bear in mind, if you know, I've been doing this for 40 odd years, and I don't just deal with ghosts, I deal with all Bigfoots and all sorts of stuff. So you have a soul group, and the way that works is, from what I understand, imagine a drop of water that's connected to the ocean. So that drop of water is connected to all the spirity things and everything else, from a bit like the Force, as Star Wars would say. You take that drop of water out, so it's still connected, but obviously on a quantum level. But then you split that drop of water into 6. That drop of water still stays the same size. All 6 stay the same size. So that's your soul group. Now they go in front of the Council of Aliens, or Council of 7, who are larger orbs, energy orbs, and they say, okay, they'll one of the smaller orbs will be given a task and say, would you like to go with, outer history, for example? And doing that, you need to learn how not to get upset when people put clown faces. So that orb will say, yes, okay, that sounds good. And then the next orb in that soul group will be told, hey, you're going to be the person that's going to be giving that clown face to outer history, and so on. It doesn't have to be a loved one. It could be a friend, as long as they connect with you throughout your life in some way. And they don't have to stay with you throughout your life. They could be a dog, for example, and only have that for 12 years. And then they wait until from what I understand, they all wait until all 6 orbs, energy, all their whole soul group gets are no longer with anything, and then they go back round, they do a life review, and then repeat, rinse, back over again. Really, it's quite simple when you break it down. It's quite logical. Ghosts. Jar has wrote, ghosts are just glitches in the multiverse. I wouldn't say that. I mean, bearing in mind, I spoke to my dad on a Ouija board. It doesn't seem like a glitch when he was telling me things, and reading my mind. And obviously, ghosts go back to Sumerian times. There's actual tablets of people talking about ghosts and spirits as if they are a common thing. I mean, they write about them more than we do now. Into their, where they would make their, food and everything else. A ghost will walk right in, and they don't bat an eyelid, which is quite fascinating. And we know this because there is the text, and some of those texts has been translated into English for us by the curator of the British Museum, Ivan Finkel, who's wrote his own book called The First Ghosts. So I wouldn't say they're a glitch in a multiverse. And first of all, you'd need to then break down the fact that we would have to have a multiverse. Until we can prove we've got a multiverse, it's hard. This is the problem with and forgive me, I'm not knocking you, but this is the problem I come across. I like to go with the evidence. There's no point in making up stuff. If we can't say that we've got a multiverse, then we can't say that there's glitches in that multiverse. But people seem to pile on these things. Oh, well, it's Bigfoot's in another dimension and he's come here because of da-da-da-da-da-da. And they come along with a huge story. But if you break it down, we don't know that there's a second dimension to start with. I mean, you can guess there is, but you have to go by the evidence, and that's what I do. User 6 has wrote, we are the ghosts and spirits, but right now we are in human form. Technically, the light energy beings are the spirits and everything, and we are just a creature that lives and dies. Doe has wrote Pineal Ground. Thank you. Yes, I got there in the end, but I bet you were screaming at screaming at your phone for some reason. I don't know why I had a brain freeze there. Jahaz wrote like Deja Vu. Yes, I think Deja Vu is a separate thing actually from spirits. I think Deja Vu is now clairvoyants and mediums have said that spirits can okay, there's a possibility it's a different thing. So listen to this. So basically clairvoyants have said that spirits can be here right now at any point in time. There is no time for them, which is why if you ask for the lottery numbers, you might get lottery numbers, but they can't tell you what day it is. Surprisingly, even though we could tell them what day it is, they don't seem to comprehend time the way we do anymore. So if they go backwards and forwards, as they say, now they can also. So, for example, your great-great-grandfather has passed. That's it. He had an orb with him, and the orbs moved along, blah, 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 carried on. Another orb right now could be in front of the Council of Aliens, and they could say, right, you're going to go and join with your great-great-uncle. Now, that's because they can go back in time from what I understand. So you could end up... this could be my 10th time round with a different orb inside me each time. And that is why we might get deja vu, which the other option is to do with something like CERN, where we jumped over onto a different parallel universe or track or dimension. But of course, until we can definitively say there are different dimensions, it's hard. Thank you for the hearts. You don't have to. Appreciate it. Mox has wrote it's called chakra. Yes, I was referring to the pineal gland, but yes, chakra is what the jinns need to break through on. Forgive me for my pronunciations. Lies. When you see red eyes, run. When you see yellow eyes, you're about to die. I've not heard that before. That's an interesting way. I mean, if you see red eyes, you probably would run, I would imagine. Doe has heard the ghost tape theory. If you could tell me what it is, like I say, over the years, people change and add things to things that I'd read years ago, but now they call it a name. Shut up, Shannon's wrote, I can't hear. Can anyone? Hopefully I haven't disappeared off your audio side of it. I didn't accidentally press mute, did I? San Kostsuma has wrote, how are they going to be ghosts if nothing lived before? You've obviously just joined and didn't hear the part where I was talking about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, for example. But basically, the light energy beings joined or was created at the same time as the universe was created. And it's a misconception, I think, that people think that your soul, you have to die in order for your soul to be released, when really the spirit joins with us and then bugs out later on. So when you realise that, then you don't have to have things to die in order for there to be spirits, because they've been around a lot longer than we have. Jah has wrote, there was no start, just a transformation. I mean, the closest we've got to the knowing about a Big Bang is actually the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Literally, trying to remember the exact word, and I doubt if I will. But it words to the effect of, and then there was suddenly everything. So I wouldn't say it was a transformation if you go by that. And I mean, these tablets are talking about something that philosophers now can't even grasp, the fact that, there could have been, a Big Bang. And yet we've got a tablet written in ancient Egyptian times that talk about how the universe could have started as a Big Bang of some description. Fascinating, really. Sunkas wrote, you get your facts from Egyptian literature. I get them from everywhere. I won't just stick with one thing. I like I say, I pay clairvoyance mediums. I've had readings. I pay them to answer questions. I've listened to countless decent clairvoyants and mediums and spiritualists, remote viewers, all sorts. I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years, and if you've listened to me before about any of the other subjects, you kind of got to know I kind of know what I'm talking about. I don't want to sound big-headed, but this isn't my first rodeo. Cosmic has wrote, spirits existed before the humans. Yes, I would agree with that. Sunk has wrote ancient Egyptian. They do talk about them, but as I say, Sumerians talked about spirits as well. And when I say Sumerian, a lot of people think that Sumerian is the Anunnaki. No, Sumerian is just like New Yorkers or Londoners or Californian people, or it's just a name for an area. So the Sumerians were the people that the Anunnaki taught in Sumeria. So, but they did talk about spirits as well. And as we know, Greece did, Egyptians certainly did. Ra El Bay has wrote, "What do you think of the fallen angels being being greys?" No, the fallen angels. I mean, we're lucky enough to have the text that literally say who the fallen angels were. So angels were. Sorry, I'm just shutting the back door at the moment because I'm going to go and plug my phone in. The fallen angels. Well, angels are Anunnaki. That's angels means messenger in Hebrew. So bearing in mind the Hebrews were a copy of a copy of a copy of the cuneiform, so it makes sense. But the Aegi, which were the Anunnakis on Mars, were the fallen angels, because Aegi means watching or watchers. And they came down and stole the human women. So we kind of got all of that answered. So they are aliens, but they're not grey aliens. They're the Anunnaki. Cosmics wrote, "We are light beings having a human experience," as they say. I don't think we're light beings. I think we are just what we are. I think the light beings are having their experience with us. Cheek has wrote, "No genuine evidence of ghosts has ever existed." I don't know where to start with that. Tell that to the people that have seen them. Tell that to the people. Okay, so I've got people here saying that there's different dimensions as fact, and trust me, read some of my comments. I get people saying, "Oh, they're this," and demons. People say aliens are demons, but there's no such thing as a demon, because demons. So when people say things, it's difficult. I'm trying to be polite here. It's difficult to, obviously, a ghost is, some people would say, an apparition. A ghost is not a physical manifestation. That's the whole point of it, because if there was, then we wouldn't be talking about it now. But luckily, people have managed to talk to them. So would you not say that when a clairvoyant turns around and says, obviously you've not been to a clairvoyant, otherwise you probably wouldn't have said that, but if a clairvoyant turns around to you and says, "I know that you wear your girlfriend's knickers on Tuesday nights," for example, then would you not then agree that either that clairvoyant's been spying on you, or your girlfriend's told on you, or the spirits are watching you? I mean, there are thousands of people, millions of people that's probably gone to clairvoyants and mediums and spiritualists and have been told things that only they would know. So if that's not evidence, then those clairvoyants are just excellent mind readers. And bearing in mind, a lot of the time, because when I went to the very first clairvoyant that I went to, medium, well, I don't know what she called herself, medium, I think it was. my sister had already been to this woman. Anyway, so I went there with my wife, fairly new wife at the time. I think we was probably married for a year, less than that. And this clairvoyant got hold of my wife's aunt or someone. Now, my wife had no idea who this person was, because thank you for the hearts. You don't have to do the hearts. She had no idea who this person was because my wife didn't really follow any of her mum's family. In other words, wasn't clued up on any of it. Didn't know anything. And so this woman sprouted on for nearly an hour about all sorts of things to do with, and it wasn't till my wife had to go back. We had an audio recording and we went back and we played it back to her mum. And her mum was going, yeah, that's this and that's that and that's that. So how can you explain when that happens when my wife didn't have a clue about any of this, and yet when the tape was played to her mum was going, yeah, that's right, yeah, that's right. So I would say that's evidence enough, in my opinion. Lisa's wrote, have you actually been through something with demons? No, because there's no such thing as a demon. Don't hate me for that. So a demon is something evil that you perceive as evil. Now, when I say describe your demon, do you know what? I was looking into demons because of the Bible, because I'm doing that live chat coming up, and I want to be on the top of my game. And I was looking up into demons, and demons is a really, really new concept, being red and having horns. We're talking about 100 and something odd years ago. Prior to that, it wasn't that shape or colour or anything. So this is a modern thing. This is I guess it's a bit like Father Christmas. It should have been green, not wearing a red suit. And that's Coca-Cola that actually changed it to red to suit the Coca-Cola logo. So demons were never the way that we perceive them. Of course, nowadays people say, well, everything's a demon, and little grey is a demon. But you can't now one demon down, because obviously you're saying, to me, Mr. Gates is a demon, evil, and a monster is exactly the same. So describe a monster to me, and you'll say, well, I can't, because monsters, it could be any shape or size. And what is a monster? Well, a monster is something that you do not know what it is, but you're scared of. Yeah, well, that's the same as a demon, but you perceive it as evil as opposed to just being scared of it. That makes sense. Of course, ancient texts don't talk about demons in the way that we do now. Lewis has wrote, hello everyone. Hi Lewis. Metal has wrote, he didn't speak back but was a real, but can be and in daylight. So that was going back to where you said you saw a ghost. You can see them in daylight, but it's literally 99.9% you will see them at night time. There was an old saying years ago. I remember this when I was very young, it scared the crap out of me, and that was at midnight. Now, obviously, my brain was hanging on a minute. What's midnight? Because if my watch is 5 minutes fast or whatever. But it was basically, what it was really trying to say was at the darkest hour, which I think is about 3 o'clock or something. But anyway, at the darkest hour, this was an old story. Go into a room, have no lights on, turn a candle on, and watch the reflection of the smoke in a mirror. Don't do this at home, because if you do it and it does work, you'll be petrified to go back in that house. And then think of a spirit. And apparently, if you do that and you're looking in the mirror at the smoke, you will see the face of the spirit in the smoke. I've never done that. Don't really want to. But yeah, so they that's because obviously they struggle with daylight for whatever reason. Amber's sent me a rose. Thank you very much. The Cosmic Novas followed the host. Oh, thank you. I don't just do ghosts. I talk about all sorts of stuff. Cheek has wrote to Lise. Demons don't exist. Religious fantasists created them. I think you're right. I think jinn exists. Another type of light energy being exists, and I think they can be perceived as evil because obviously they got a different agenda to what the other light energy beings, and of course people would call them demons if someone, if a jinn took over, and you didn't know what it was called and you didn't call it a jinn, if that came in your house and was you could sort of catch glimpses of it and it was knocking things off the walls and telling you to get out, you would probably say that's a demon as opposed to saying, hang on a minute, that sounds like a jinn. Because if you didn't know about it, you would call it a demon. Doe has wrote, evil and good doesn't exist beyond the material world. Well, you actually spot on there, I think. You actually then put LMO, laugh my whatever. Do you know I'm not great on abbreviations. But I think you're right because the light energy beings do not have a good or bad compass. Because to us, I wouldn't want, as an energy being, I wouldn't want to come back as a mass murderer or anything like that. But they have no problem with that. They don't see a problem with that. And like I was saying before, when you with the soul group, the next time, so you could be a victim. Your one of the soul group could be a victim, e.g., one of the orbs, and the other one could be the murderer. But when you go back round, this time it could be the other way round. So, as an orb, as an entity, you're experiencing every single possible outcome, and that's what they're doing. That's how they learn. That's why Earth is classed as a learning ground. Lisa's wrote, they actually do, I promise you, they are real. That's to do with demons. Again, though, whatever your perception is of what you may have come across, how sure are you that it's a demon? Because my demon looks like a wealthy man in America who's buying up farmland and is going to try and stop us from eating real meat. That's my definition of a demon, but your definition is whatever it is that you were scared of, that you thought was evil. Do you see what I mean? So it's just a name for something. That's all it is. Not saying you didn't find, something scary, but it can't be a demon just because that's just a name for a generic name. Metals wrote, then just disappeared. Many say he is seen now and again. Are you the sort of person that would go back and get spirit box or a device to try and communicate with it? I'd be interested to know. Or are you happy just to leave it where it was? And when I say it sounds really bad because obviously some people don't know how to cross over again to the second plane, and we know that because clairvoyance, or even priests and people like that, when they go into a house and there's a spirit there, they say look for the light or go to the other side, even though would be thinking, hang on a minute, how can they go to the other side? They're already on the other side. That doesn't make sense. How can they go to the other side? But that is what it is. They go to the other side because there is a second plane of existence they move on to. Ra-El Bay has wrote, the laws of the sun explains it all. I'm not familiar with that. Interesting. Hannah's wrote, evening teacher, and she's given me an apple and a drink. Thank you. It's normally just an apple. I've gone up in the world now. I'll be professor soon. Singh has wrote, the ghost gangs. It's an interesting point you made. I don't know what your point was, but it's an interesting thing because I have thought many a time that if I died, I would try and go back and get the killer. If I was murdered, I would try and go back as a spirit and take out the murderer. But that doesn't happen. Otherwise, you'd have people dropping dead all over the place. The murderers dropping dead suddenly. That doesn't seem to be happening. So my next thought would be, we'll grab as many spirits with me and go and take out, I don't know, demons that are multi-millionaires or billionaires. To stop them from killing the populace, but that hasn't happened in World War II, for example, all the poor people that sit there and prayed in a camp didn't get any miracles, and they would have all crossed over. And I would have thought one of them would have said, "Hey, let's all join together. Let's use all our manifestation and push a little man with a moustache down some stairs." Didn't happen. So ghost gangs, it's a shame because in a way it would have been a good retribution, but it doesn't seem to happen. Now, whether there's a law against that, and there are things that spirits can't say, clairvoyants have had questions unanswered where they've been told we cannot answer that. Now, whether or not that's because they're not allowed or because they don't know the answer to it, my guess is they're not allowed. I think there is an etiquette. Sunkas wrote, just because you say it's in the tablet doesn't make it real. You're quoting ancient Egyptian myth. So the ancient tablets that I'm talking about in this particular instance have said things that clairvoyants have come out with and have said the same things. So either the clairvoyants are also mything it up, or the ancient tablet had got some of it right. Which one is it? You take your pick. I'll let you guess. I'll give you a couple of minutes to work that one out. So either you believe in clairvoyance because it matches what the ancient myth says. Do you see what I'm saying? You get where I'm going with this? I hate using logic, but that's how I work. Sunk then wrote ancient Egyptian mythology. Okay, I'm not even going to go down that road. Because those of you that's listened to me, obviously Sunk's probably never watched any of my videos, but those of you that have listened to me know that I can pull out where it says mythology, I can pull out some evidence generally of something to do with that mythology. So yeah, Cheek has wrote to Lise, no credible evidence have ever existed to back up the claim. That's to do with demons, I'm guessing. Jar has wrote, if light is a sound frequency, then we are all frequencies of body of light. Light. Okay, so everything has a frequency. Everything has a frequency. Even microwaves are a frequency. Obviously, we've got a light visual spectrum that we go by as what we call light frequencies, but they still produce lights. In fact, I did a video just today on my Patreon page, if anyone's interested, a long video. I do them long on there, and it was to do with quantum lights coming off of bubbles. I won't go into detail because obviously those that are patrons can go and watch it, but it's if you're interested, the video is called Quantum something, and I cover various different things such as the time crystals, which I don't know if you guys are aware of. There's a thing called time crystals, which works on the quantum level. So the long video that I've done covers all of that, which the light, basically just to go along with what you're saying about light. So yeah, this bubble creates a quantum light, which can also then possibly be in tune with quantum entanglement. But I'm trying to allude to it because obviously I've done a long video for my patrons to watch if they're interested. Metal has wrote, time glitches might explain some ghost sightings. Well, yes, the shadow people I think are not spirits. I think from every person I've ever heard, they don't seem to acknowledge your existence if you're watching the shadow people. They scare the hell out of people, and people say, oh, they're after me, but they weren't. They were just scared to hell of seeing a shadow person doing whatever. And I think that is a time dilation, because you've probably heard the story. If not, it's a fascinating story. I'll be quick. Apparently a true story. Little old lady in America in a little cabiny house thing, rural area, watching TV. She turns around and sees three shadow beings walk into the room. She screams. Those three shadowy beings run out the room. Okay, the lady dies. Roll on a few years later. After she dies a few years later, and the three sons were walking into the house to see what they can sell or whatever of the ladies. They walk into the house and they see a shadowy figure sitting there watching TV. The shadowy figure turns around and screams, and they run out the house. Fascinating story, and that's what I think shadow people are. Hannah's wrote, "What's the subject, classmates?" So we're trying to sort of stay with the ghosty theme today. Duh has wrote, "What's the strongest evidence for ghosts?" It's a fair question, absolutely fair question. Obviously, those that have come across ghosts will tell you that they're real. I would go along with spirit boxes, so that removes the margin of error with a clairvoyant. So if you have a spirit box, and nowadays you can get some really, really, really good ones. There's people out there that actually build their own ones, and each version they get better and better. In other words, the sound quality is phenomenal on them. So if you had one of those sound boxes and you ask for a spirit to talk to you and it comes through, that and it answers in a coherent message, as opposed to just hearing static or an ambiguous answer, would that not be evidence enough? But also then you've also now got these it started with the Xbox Connect, where you could actually see a lined figure of another person standing next to you, for example, where the Xbox Connect camera would be trying to pick out a person to make an avatar on the screen. And now there's phone apps that do the same thing. So there are people out there that were using, ghost hunters were using this device and actually seeing a rocking chair move. They put the camera on the rocking chair and they see a stick figure sitting on the rocking chair, rocking the chair when there's no one on the chair. Draw drop evidence, I would say so. Obviously, you can't get evidence from something that's invisible to the naked eye. It's very difficult. But when you add all of these things together, and obviously the people that have gone to clairvoyance and heard things that only they would know, so Andy's possibly put a yawning face. I'm not sure what that is. Lise has wrote back to Cheek, "I give you that, but there is a place in Russia. You should go there, and for you. People don't believe this guy. Don't let that negative be around." Oh, sorry, that was someone else. There's a place in Russia, Lisa said. And then Singh has wrote, "People don't believe this guy. Don't let negative be around." Technically you could say if you was asking me questions about loved ones and the fact that they're still around and, you can still talk to them, would that be a negative thing, Mr. Singh? Or are you perceiving it as a negative thing? Do you see what I mean? So for me, when I spoke to my dad on that Ouija board, to be fair, most of my thoughts was going to, oh my God, my dad just read my mind. This is real. Spirits are real. Blah blah blah. It wasn't. It's a shame. I should have. But that was just the way my brain went. But I should have been going, oh my God, I'm talking to my dad. But it was more of a, oh my God, this is real. I've just done a, little test and that sort of thing. So I wouldn't say it's a negative thing if you want to know that your loved one is still around and looking over you or looking at you. Sunkas wrote, "Ancient Egyptian mythology is not evidence." They're finding things all the time, don't you? You know that they found things that 100 years ago they would have called that myth. You know that, don't you? Off the top of my head, I can't think of something. You've got to remember, I've got 40 years of all sorts of stuff in my head. But if you want, I'll do a video on one particular thing that 100 years ago they was calling a myth. Do you know what? I'll tell you something else. 200 years ago, this is a true fact, 200 years ago, people used to think that it was a myth, a fantasy, a miracle, whatever you want to call it, that people would fly in a tin can across the ocean. Do you know that? It's quite funny, that, isn't it? They used to think that was impossible. So when you say myth, do be careful, because obviously, as I say, things 100 years ago, they found things that answered that question, and it's like, okay, well, that's not a myth, let's move on. But not many people bother bringing that up, because obviously it shows that if one myth is correct, then how many more were correct? But I do agree that the ancient Egyptians did have slightly different versions of the same story. You know, I can name many stories where I can tell you where different writings are of the same story in Egypt, and each one has a different outcome. For example, one had Horus cutting off his own mum's head, and another version of the same story had him not cutting off his mum's head. So there is different versions to those stories, but there are things out there that have been found. Jahaz wrote frequently occurring in dimensional forms. Not sure what that was referring to. Metals wrote CERN 5th of July, laugh out loud. Yeah, they've already been doing whatever it is that they say they're going to be starting. Marx wrote, because they did that years ago, they actually started the machine 2 years, I think it was, prior, or at least 2 years prior to when they said on the news. Marx wrote, sorry, what are the tablets you are talking about? So, in terms of the spirits, I was referring to the emerald tablets of Thoth, who was actually Ningazida, really, but in Egyptian times he was called Thoth. And it's very difficult. I mean, the actual beginning part of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth says you need to read it 100 times to actually understand it. And you know what? As clued up as I think I am, I'm not trying to sound big-headed, as clued as I think I am, I had to read it, 20 times before I could start breaking down why it's talking about and what it's talking about. I kind of got the gist, after the first 3 or 4 times, but I needed to keep reading and reading and reading. And the more you read it, because obviously the things that they talk about, it's a long book, long text. By the time you get to the end, you've forgotten, because it's literally, and a lot of the wording also plays on. It's not simple English. It's worded in such a way you're sort of thinking, cut out all that, hurry up, get to the point. And by then you've forgotten the last thing that he just said, sort of thing. So, but yeah, it's a fascinating read, really, once you can break it down and understand what it's referring to. Fake has wrote, so after a nuke, do you think the burnt shadow that it leaves behind of a person is a spirit? No, I heard that it shatters the spirit. A nuke will shatter a light energy being. Now, I did hear, now whether or not this is true, I did hear they said that they can piece it back together, but I how true that is, I don't know. Again, I'm just telling you what I've heard. Make up your own minds on whether you even believe. But the fact of the matter that the Greys do stop us using nukes, there's evidence of that, lots. Clearly suggests that they don't want us using nukes for a reason. Now, chances are that we could use a different type of technology, and they might not let us, they may let us blow ourselves up. That's fine to them, because obviously it's not stopping. And the Greys do work with the light energy beings. There's enough evidence of that as well, from remote viewers and clairvoyants and all sorts of people in the know. Sunkas wrote, Atlas holds the Earth up on his back, according to the Greeks. No, I did a video recently. Obviously, you've not watched it. It's actually supposed to be holding up the sky. Um, so yeah, a lot of people used to do think that it's the Earth because obviously you see graphical images of Atlas holding up the Earth, and unfortunately, it's wrong. And that's where people that then moan and say, "Oh, that's got to be a mythology because how can it be holding up Earth?" Mythology. But if you actually break the actual translations properly, he was holding up the sky, but he obviously wasn't holding up the sky. But he was obviously doing something, but I doubt if it was holding up the sky. But again, you know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. The translations can be construed to make it seem like myths, when really, if we could actually work out what he was holding up, then it probably wouldn't be a myth. It's just our translations of whoever translated it, their translations was heaven, not heaven, sky. Well, bearing in mind, heaven should be space. So this is how myths end up. Sunk wrote, "Is that real?" Oh, sorry, I missed something there. Man United wrote, "So why wonder our parents not appear to us then?" So obviously you joined in after. Basically, it's not easy for a spirit to manifest into a human form. Two, you'd probably be frightened witless because if they don't exactly turn into the person that you remember, and it's just a sort of shadowy figure, or a see-through figure or whatever, you ain't going to think that that's your parents. You're going to think, "Oh my God, the house is haunted." You can talk to obviously your parents if they're still here. Now, bearing in mind, if you've listened to me enough, you'll know that they can cross over to the next plane of existence. So they may not even be here. They may have moved on for whatever reason. So don't, just because they don't contact you, it doesn't mean they didn't love you. It just means they may have moved on already. If I can't take out some of the people that's going to hurt the planet, if I can't do that when I die, I will go straight as quick as I can to the next plane of existence. Doesn't mean I don't love my family any less. Just means I don't want to see their futures, because as a spirit you can see past, present, and future. I don't want to know what happens to them because I will be on the other side. You still have emotions. You can regret committing suicide. You can regret the choices that you made during your life, not necessarily in the life review, but you can be watching over your loved one thinking, "Why did I cheat on her?" or whatever it is. So don't think that you go over there, it's all lovey dovey. Yes, you'll get the lovey dovey side from loved ones or spirit guides that will meet you, and not everyone gets met. Not everyone gets met over there. So you could die, and for whatever reason, no one's around. There's many cases near death experiences where that's happened, and they've wandered the halls of a hospital, for example, and seen other spirits there, but they're not there to greet them. So it's So the whole afterlife is a bit of a weird thing. Mark wrote, "Sorry, what are the tablets she was talking about?" Emerald tablets of Thoth. Singh has wrote, "He's pulling your leg," and then Singh wrote, "But he's so knowledgeable, and everything that he says is actually making a lot more sense than me reading whatever I read, Mr. Singh, or wherever you go to pray or whatever." Hannah's wrote, "We are energy." I mean, see, to me, everything is a frequency, but we are who we are. The energy part is the light energy being, I think, but that's just my take on it. Singh has wrote, "Can we get a ghost on the live, please?" I would actually say any ghosts out there, give Singh a slap, knock his hat off. Hannah's wrote, to speech, blah blah blah. Singh's then wrote actually a sensible question, but I'm not actually going to bother replying to it. Singh wrote, "How can we be ghosts? How can we be ghosts? Teach me, please." But because Singh was being a numpty Singh, I'm not going to bother answering that. Auric has wrote, "You're welcome." That's to Peach. Peach saying hi to Orica. Wolf has wrote, "Ghost, seriously." Do you know? There are people, I've listened to people that actually, would be like this person here, that would say, "Ghost, seriously," and until you have an experience, then it's the same as UFO people. If you until you see a UFO or an alien, you could be like, "Well, they don't exist, do they? Because I've never seen one." And then there's people like yourself, and forgive me, I'm not knocking you, but there's people like you, Wolf, who would say, "I will only believe it if I see it with my own eyes, not even through glass, not even through a mirror. I want to see it with my own eyes. If I can't see it with my own eyes, it's not real." So I would then say, what about the back of your head? Can't see that with your own eyes. So I'm just saying, there's degrees. There was an excellent film many years ago called The Billionaires Boys Club, starring Judd Nelson. I don't know if anyone remembers it. And on that, Judd said to one of the people that was going to be working for him, he said, "Do you have a line that you cross?" And he said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, would you kill someone?" And the person says, "Absolutely not." And Judd says, "You sure?" He says, "Absolutely not." "No, of course not. Of course I wouldn't." He said, "Okay." So he says, "What happens if you went into your house and you saw someone stabbing your mum and you had a gun in your hand? What would you do?" "Well, I'd shoot them." "To kill them?" "Well, yeah." Then you do have your line that you've now said that you wouldn't cross. There is a line that you've now pushed further back. So you would kill someone under certain circumstances. And he goes, "Yeah, okay, you got me on that." And he says, "So let me ask you another question." He pulls out a little bit of white card and he says, "What colour's this card?" And the guy says, "It's white." He says, "You sure?" He says, looks at it. He says, "Yep." He says, "How much would you bet on that?" He says, Judd says, "Would you bet your life on it?" And the guy moves his head closer to the card that Judd's holding up, looks at it and says, "Yep, white, definitely, yep." Judd turns it round, it's black on the other side, and Judd says, "Well, to me, it's black." So the point I'm trying to get at is, when people say go seriously, sometimes you may not know everything that there is to know, because obviously certain things are not made for you to know, which is quite a simple concept if people can grasp that concept, that there's things that we're not supposed to know. And I'm okay with that. Obviously, I'm trying to learn the stuff, but it's not handed to us on a plate. Just scrolling down. Sorry. Just scrolling down. I'll tell you what. Sing. I'm just gonna get rid of singy, sing. Blocky, sing. Because numpty, sing. Okay, sorry. And I get told off for being rude, really. Raw has wrote, "Ghosts have not existed since the start of our universe. That's hilarious." Okay, obviously you've joined late and you've not heard all the reasons why they were here, but tell me, let's work it the other way. Let's use a little bit of logic here. Tell me why they haven't. Oh, that's going to hurt, isn't it? You tell me why they haven't. I'm telling you something that I can tell you from tablets that date back to ancient Egyptian times, that shouldn't really have known about the universe starting in a Big Bang type of thing, but they do. Now you tell me why they didn't start. You tell me at what point they started. There you go. So I kind of win the argument on that. Sorry, I don't mean to sound rude, but you can't say something and not be able to back it up. I'm giving you my evidence, but you can't give me any evidence of when they did start to appear. So I know people hate me for this. I'm sure they do, or they listen in because they like my pure logic. I don't know. Tappies wrote, to think if Earth didn't exist and the universe didn't exist and colours didn't exist is mind buzzing. Yeah, I have thought the same sort of thing. The reason why I thought the same thing is, you make a really good point, is go to the top of the class for that, is because there was a documentary done by the BBC of what happens in X amount of trillions of years, and it went through. You should watch it. It's on YouTube, and it goes from now, and the time gets exponentially faster. In other words, the video sort of speeds up, showing, Earth's here, the sun starts to expand, da da da. Eventually, our sun blows up, and blah blah blah, and then black holes form. They swallow up planets, blah blah blah, over trillions and trillions of years, and carries on until there's nothing left. Thank you, Hannah, for the rose. Until there's nothing left, and there's nothing. And I thought to myself at that moment in time, if that is going to be absolutely nothing when in the future, way in the future, thank you, Roy, for the rose as well. If these light energy beings are eternal, I certainly wouldn't want to be the last one to turn the lights off, as a human still left in spirit form and don't cross over, because I would be bored out of my mind for eternity with nothing around, no planets, no nothing. Thank you, Ray Ryan's, for the rose. BKZ has wrote demons. I've sort of covered demons already. I don't want to bore people that's already listening to me, but you'll find that your demon and my demon are different, because there's no technically such thing as a demon. Singh, although I've blocked him, actually made an interesting question here. How do you keep yourself safe from this? I'm guessing he's referring to spirits as opposed to my waffling ons. Technically, as I said before, if you was murdered, you'd go back and try and kill the person that got you, I'm sure. And that doesn't happen. So when people say, how can I be safe from spirits, the chances of you getting attacked even by an evil person is virtually non-existent. Otherwise all bad people will be getting retribution, so it doesn't seem to be. BK's wrote aliens are so-called demons. That's the problem, isn't it? Because the problem with that is, first of all, there's no, if we went to another planet, are we demons? What do you mean? Well, we would be an alien on another planet. No, it doesn't count. Well, no, it does. It does. We would be aliens. We wouldn't be belong there. So therefore, we're now demons. Well, no, I didn't mean it like that. Do you see what I mean? So if we can tell you where the aliens come from and what they do and what they look like, and they're actually, for example, the Zetas are nice, are they still demons? Well, all right, maybe not those ones then. So you see what I'm saying? So demons are not a real thing. It's a monster. I use this. I don't know why people struggle with this, but name, tell me what a monster looks like. You can't, because they're just a thing you're scared of. Demons are exactly the same. I don't know why pop culture or whatever it is that's got demons in. Was it the Bible? Do you read the Bible? Why a lot of people just keep throwing out the word demon without actually putting it in their head and thinking, hang on a minute. So how come his demon's different to my demon? My demon is, a billionaire that's got glasses, in the States. So yeah. Just scrolling down. Lewis wrote, when we sleep, does our spirit visit other places or people? I would say, what you're talking about there is, I guess, an out-of-body experience. And people do have those out-of-body experiences. And if you believe in their out-of-body experiences, then yes, our spirit has a vacation, leaves us, and snaps back in. And the reason why I would go along and say that's true is because near-death experiences, people, when you are coming back round and you've already left your body, you snap back in. So the same description of both leads me to believe that both of them can't just be coincidences. I think they probably would mean that the spirit leaves your body, one voluntarily and one because it thinks you've died. ATRX has followed the host. Thank you very much. I've got 800 odd videos if you're interested in all sorts of subjects on TikTok. Hannah's wrote, dust particles are totally different from orbs. To start, dust particles fall, orbs move with purpose. Thank you. You've put it more eloquently than I would have done or tried to earlier. If only I'd been there, I could have just read your bit out and that would have saved me 5 minutes of waffling. I know I waffle. Don't hate me. Hannah's wrote, sorry, my spelling is taking a break today, teacher. That's all right. If you've seen mine, do not copy mine on the blackboard, for God's sake. And when I say God, I'm referring to me. Bit of Chickens wrote, what is your take on all the multiverse being shown in shows so much lately? It's a really good question, actually. Go number 2 in the class for that. That's a really good question. Because they're ramping things up, aren't they? Superman and Lewis, the Flash, and the Marvel movies, and it really is. Everything is about multi dimensions, etc. Obviously, the last one that just came out was Doctor Strange 2 in the multiverse. So yeah, it's a good question. Why they're doing it, I don't know. Is it just because it's a great storyline right at this moment in time? I don't know. It's if you go along with David Wilcox, he thinks that there's a book, an ancient book that's in the British Museum. He says that has some passages that says to bring out not really a demon, but we'll call it a demon just to help people understand. To bring out a demon to help come and control us, the elites who are trying to get this creature to come through a different dimension. He says that the rules in the book says before you do that, you have to let people know what your intentions are. So in other words, if they are trying to open a portal to let a creature come through that they're worshipping at the moment, even though it's not here, the book says supposedly that they have to tell us that they're. So could all these movies and TV, especially as Disney seems to be a big part of it, could they be using this as a way of saying, hey, we're going to be bringing through something from multi-dimension, and therefore kind of skirting around the fact that they're actually bringing it through by making it look like they're telling us in movies, but we don't obviously put it 2 and 2 together. So it's a really good question you bring up there. Don't know the answer, and I'm frightened that if David Wilcox is right, it's really scary because the elites do seem to worship something. Hannah's wrote, teacher, be careful using the Ouija board. Yes, it was my mum's cut out pieces of paper on a table with an upside down cut, but glass. But yeah, that was years ago, and I totally believe it was my dad. Because the first thing my mum asked is, she'd already spoke to him before on the homemade Ouija board with my sister, and she sort of said, where are you? And he said a pub, and my dad lived actually grew up above a pub, so he was always in a pub. So as soon as that was like, oh wow, I'm talking to my dad, and then it was more, really, to be fair, it was more, is my mum moving this glass than really, I'm talking to my dad. I kept testing, I kept taking my finger off the glass and everything. But yes, do be careful if you ever do Ouija boards, because they can. There are apparently tricksters, in other words, spirits that will try and pretend that they are someone. I've heard that a hell of a lot as well. Just scrolling down. The Peaches gave me a time check. Wow. Okay, 7:10. Thank you, Peach. This was only supposed to be a short one. Hannah's wrote, teacher, the ghost tape theory are called EVPS today. Okay. I don't know the abbreviation of that. I'm trying to think of it. I'm still gone. Sorry. But thank you, Hannah. Coffees wrote, "Do you have a faith?" Out of curiosity, I don't. My mum, when I remember being very young and her making me kneel beside my bed with my arms sort of rested on the bed. So I must have been 4 or 5 years old, and she'd made me sort of clasp my hands together and say some prayer. So that's my earliest remembering of religion. But when I got to about 6, when I started to become curious in missing people, disappearing aliens, and all that kind of stuff. As time went on, I went through the Bible and started reading the Bible, and there was just too many holes in it. It was just, I'm a very logical person, and I just couldn't see how there was so many discrepancies, and there is. If I'm not lying, priests will tell you there is. If you read it properly, you will know that one part will say it contradicts another part later on. And it wasn't till, I don't know, I was probably 10 or something, that I was in the Natural History Museum, and they had the pictures of the people from ape to going all the way up to Neanderthal and then to humans, and they had the missing link in there. But they had basically a hominid in that gap. In other words, they wasn't saying. And I remember saying to the teacher, and I didn't at that point. I hadn't looked into our prehistory like that. I was more into sort of aliens and stuff. And I remember saying to the teacher, that's not right. That doesn't work, because all of the creatures from apes to humans, they're not here. Technically, the apes should have also evolved. If they've evolved into us, why are they still here? And where's everything else in between? It just didn't work. So that's when I started looking up about evolution, etc. So when it comes to faith, when I got to, I didn't have any at that point, even though my mum made me lean over the bed. But when I came across the older texts in the Bible, it was just like, well, there you go, that answers that. So there's no, to me, the Anunnaki were here. There's no point in worshipping them. They didn't have a religion. There was no Christianity, Islam, or nothing with them. It was just, we created you, bring us our wine, pretty much. It's humans that created the religion, and you could say, well, hang on, that's a bit unfair, but there's 4,000 religions right now. There can't be 4,000 gods floating around. So, so from a faith point of view, when you've got 4,000 different religions, you kind of realize it was a human thing. Just makes sense. John has wrote, "Ghosts are demon spirits." Forgive me, I'm not knocking you, but if those of you who's been listening to this for a while will quite understand now why I sort of keep saying what I say about demons, because people are indoctrinated, shall we say, into this demon thing where they don't understand something. They call it a demon. I'm not knocking you, John. Sorry, I'm just trying to say, because obviously you missed what I was sort of talking about earlier. But so what they can quite easily say, an alien is a demon without batting an eyelid, but they don't actually know what a demon is, because obviously there's different races of aliens. We know that. So how can they all be demons? Can't they just be their own alien races? Why do they have to be a demon? Why can't they just be a Zeta or a Palladian? Or why do we have to name them as a demon? And if they are demons and they're evil, because a demon is described as something evil, why are we still here? Why haven't they killed us? Our own politicians are killing us more than the demons aliens are. So, to me, our politicians are demons. Do you get what I'm saying? So I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm surprised at how many people will just throw the word demons out there as if it's a fact and not use any logic. I don't. Maybe it's just me. Latest Visions wrote, "Do you believe you'll get into heaven right after death?" So there is no such thing as heaven. Forgive me for that. First of all, we know that because the translations, when they do talk about heaven, is space. So when they go up in their craft, in their chariots, yes, you probably realise that from the Bible, and they come back down, Ezekiel, for example, and Enoch, they went up in without having to die. They went up in heaven, had a chat with you know who, Enlil, sorry, and then came back down. That's just a couple, let alone the Mahabharata and all those other texts. You realise it's space. You'd have to be crazy not to realise they're talking about space if you do your homework. Or if you just believe the Bible, fine. Then you go to the clairvoyants, mediums, and spiritualists, and you say to them, "Is there heaven? Is there any heaven?" And they will say no. A good. This is why I got frustrated with Dolores Cannon when she threw out that there was a heaven. Really frustrated me because she's good on so many things, but there is no heaven. And if you talk to a good clairvoyant and medium, one that's reputable, one that you can, maybe have a reading with yourself and then say to them, "Is there heaven?" They'll say, "No, there's higher and lower frequencies of spirits. The lower frequencies, the bad ones, the bad people, seem to hang around wherever. Could be, the end of your garden for all I care. That they seem to clump together, and the good ones seem to clump together just as you would now. You'd probably get ghettos or get sections of society where there's bad people that seem to hang around. I'm not saying that as a general. Obviously, there's people out there that are bad billionaires with glasses that might not necessarily be in a ghetto area, but you see what I'm trying to say. There's bad people everywhere, but they seem to hang together. So for me, there is no heaven because I've researched it enough to know the orbs. When I cross over to the second plane after dying, I'll just disappear again, and then I'll go back, or the spirit will go back round, and I will just be a memory. So, Hannah's wrote, "Check out old photos like the Grey Lady here in the UK." That's yeah. So I'm guessing what you're saying is to the person that says about the photographs. The I hate saying this. The problem we have with the older photographs is the exposure times. They did allow the ability to have a long exposure, which then meant that a previous image may come through on the same reel of film or same plate. Not saying that that's not true on all circumstances, but I'm just saying there is that danger of older photographs having that ability to do that. Probably people chatting to each other. Aurora has wrote, "Are the royals reptilians?" I wouldn't have said so. Put yourself in their position. Would you want to be a reptilian sitting there watching daytime TV and then going to cut a ribbon? You've got no power whatsoever, and you're surrounded by humans day in, day out. And then when you leave your building, you are photographed, videoed, and scrutinized every single move you do. And if you're a shape-shifting alien, you probably wouldn't want to do that, because if you accidentally slipped cover for whatever reason, your forked tongue comes slipping out or whatever, it's you're in the most public eye you could possibly be. No, it just doesn't make sense to me. If I was a reptilian, I would rather be the person down with, if I was going to be a bad one, I'd be the one that's working in where the nukes are, that I can press the button. I wouldn't be sitting in a massive palace surrounded by people and doggies and family feuds over bloody whatever they're fighting over these days. So no, I don't see it. Just scrolling down. JJK has been listening for ages. Thank you very much. It says you're number one. All he's saying is true and on point. Oh, thank you very much. Obviously, you've done your homework. I guess it's all about that, isn't it? It's the same as with aliens and everything. If you don't know about them, then it's just fantasy, or it's myth, or it's stupid. But if you dig into it and and stuff, then it becomes a bit more real. User 8 has wrote, what about this event that's going to take place on July the 5th? They've already done it. They said the same thing when CERN first started. It had already been going for at least 2 years prior to the newspapers saying, "Oh, they're going to blow up the world if they press that button on such and such a day." I remember I was reading every single newspaper. Bearing in mind, this is what I do, even though this isn't my full-time job. I suck this sort of information up. So you may have just passed and not even remembered it, but I sucked all that information up and then found out later on that CERN had been going for at least a couple of years prior to that, which makes sense. You know, you're not going to advertise something and then it all go wrong or something go wrong, because you'll be blamed there and then. So your best bet's to do it beforehand, and if it goes wrong, then you're never going to get blamed because no one knew you was even going to be turning that machine on at that point. So ignore, nothing's going to happen July the 5th. If anything's going to happen July the 5th, they're going to switch our power off so that we start getting used to the fact that, as they would say, solar flares, don't blame us, blame the solar flares, even though we've got the technology to shield from EMPs, etc. But hey, let's forget about the fact that we've got the technology and we've known about flares for many, many decades. Hey, you're going to lose all your communication skills. If anything's going to happen, it will be a fake power event, in my opinion. Bearing in mind, CERN isn't the only hadron collider out there. There's another one in Germany, I think, and there's possibly another one as well. So they're doing stuff all the time. WD's wrote to Peach, absolute machine. He won't be beaten. He is too dedicated. I have no idea what that was. I must have missed something there, but I'm going to pretend it's about me. Oh no, it's about Volk. I've just read someone, Volk. I don't know who Volk is. But I'm going to pretend it was about me. WD has wrote, have you ever started at yourself in the I'm guessing that stared at yourself in the mirror for 5 minutes. I think if I'm lucky, I stare at myself for about 4 seconds to see I haven't got anything on my face before I leave for work. That's about it. My brother smashes mirrors when he walks past them, even in shops. He hates himself. So yeah, my brother's chalk and cheese. Me and my brother, absolute chalk and cheese. Yeah, he wouldn't be polite to you, to the people on here. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, moving on. And Hannah's wrote, did you know the god Odin was also considered Santa? I think I heard that years ago. Just trying to remember. I'm not sure. I might have heard it years ago. I can't remember. It sounds familiar. But obviously, Chris Kringle. The problem with Father Christmas is there's many different names for him, as you know, Chris Kringle and so on, St. Christopher and whatnot. So it's it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case, because I think they'd want to probably get him from somewhere. OPH has wrote, a different perspective. Ghosts and spirits bleed through walls to this world from another world or dimension. See, I think spirits can, light energy beings, can fly through walls and stuff like that. And the larger ones do come up from the ground in a crops, before they form the crop circle. So they do go into grounds. But the problem again, where you say or another dimension, is until we know for sure there is a second dimension, we kind of have to stick with what we are aware of at the moment. Latest Visions wrote, don't you think witches are demons? My daughter's, as much as I'm desperately trying to get on these things, on this chat, even a recorded one, because she's a practicing witch, and sometimes when she annoys me, I call her away. witch. But sorry about that bad joke. But no, I think the problem is witches go back, obviously, way back. In fact, if you read the Sumerian texts, they actually had cures and curses back then, which is where basically the whole witch scenario, I think, come from. Because Nimna, I think it was, actually put a curse on Enlil when he did something naughty bad with a very young person. I have to be careful what I say on here. And then when he came back, she took the curse off of him. So we've got, literally evidence of witches dating back from the Anunnaki times. So I don't think they're demons. I think they were people, same as the builders back in the day, when the builders were given the information by the Anunnaki how to continue building their sort of magnificent structures. They were given tools, Anunnaki tools to carry on building, because obviously all the Anunnakis weren't going to sit there and build. They would rather sit there and, play with humans or whatever they were doing. So I think the same goes with, because they created oracles using ME tablets. I don't know if you've listened to me before, but the Anunnaki physically created the people that they wanted in certain positions, such as priests, oracles, builders, and so on. So they manipulated the DNA to get the type of person that they wanted to do whatever it is in that position that they gave them. And I'm sure they would have had healers. I'm not saying they would have created the healers, but I'm sure they would have had healers, medical people that weren't just the Anunnaki. So they would have trained these other people, humans, in ways that we are not familiar with now. And seeing as Nimna was a female, don't hate me with this whole gender thing, I'm just throwing it out there. She was the chief medical officer. It sounds like Star Trek, doesn't it? So if she was going to teach people, it's possible she taught women how to become the medical people using curses and, certain herbs and this, that, and the other. And down the line, some of those obviously got, as time moved on further and further away from the Anunnaki, those people that had those skills were probably ostracized. Sometimes they used them. I mean, we still have shamans to this day, where you can go along and they can practice sort of, not necessarily voodoo type things, but you get what I'm saying. But they're okay because they're men. It seems that the women that had these abilities seem to get persecuted for some reason. So I wouldn't have said they're demons, not simply because we've got evidence of curses dating back so far. Hannah's wrote, no, witches aren't demons. JJ's wrote, for a ghost to show itself, does it need to build up its energy? It does need to do something. Yes, I would probably say yes to that. Now there's, I've heard also hundreds of stories, but I keep going back to some of them, such as the football one. So a clairvoyant was talking to someone and they were saying that they play football a lot. And hang on a minute, you're a spirit, how the hell do you play football? And the answer was basically that all the other spirits have to manifest the ball and use, I don't know, power or whatever it is that they use to keep that ball physically there in their realm. I know it sounds really stupid, doesn't it? Because it defies our logic of, how to, but supposedly they can do it, but it's a lot of energy for them to be able to do that. So yes, the answer, I guess, is to your question. Dimitri has written, my family were travelling down the road. There was a new way to get into the swimming pool, and then a week later it was gone. We asked the staff member, where did it go? And they said there was no such road. I'm just seeing if there's any more to that. And then Dimitri says, and we all saw it. That is not the first time I've heard that story. Not your story, but stories so similar to that, where one day they're driving past a calf. I'm just using this one particular story as an analogy. They took a couple always used to drive past this because on the way to work, and then the next day they drove past and there was a massive house there. They pulled over and thought, this was built so quick. What, in a night? How? They knocked on the door and said, what the hell happened to the calf? How did this get built so quick? And the person said, what do you mean? It's been here for years. No. We pass it every day. Nope. And that's two people. So when you're saying, because some people say, well, it's one person that's crossed over, on a different time track. When you're saying we, as you just did, so you're not alone. There are people out there that somehow cross to a different time, different dimension, possibly. Again, I can't say that for sure because obviously we don't have evidence of it, but it does seem like something happens. So I've heard so many stories like that. So yeah, you've now probably gone onto a different track, so to speak. Metal has wrote, residual energy of emotions add to the energy it goes to be apparent. I don't know. It's a good question. It's a really good question. Go number 3 in the class. I don't know the answer whether it's to do with emotions or not. But it's a really good point. I'd never thought of asking that. So that's something I'll do next time I talk to a clairvoyant. It's a good question. Peaches wrote, does a spirit always come back to Earth, or can they go to other planets? So from what I understand, we are sort of a training ground. So we're an early stage for them, even though they've been around for a long time. So that makes me think, obviously, if you go along with that, they've been around since the start of the universe. Other species they have joined with, we've got people saying that in very past life regressions that they were actually with another, in other words, before humans came along, before they had the ability to be for spirits to join with us, because obviously if Neanderthal didn't have the pineal gland, for example, then other than maybe lions or whatever other animals, there was no sentient beings for them to join with here on Earth. So people that have been regressed have said that they've been on other planets. So obviously, as the new kids on the block, we've probably took spirits that have already had lives elsewhere, but have come here to learn. And apparently, Earth is one of the sort of harder places for them to learn. So that would also explain why they come back and learn here, even though may never have been here before, if that makes sense. Hannah's wrote to Metal, residual energy, the greater the tragedy, the higher the residual energy. You could be spot on. I don't know, but if that's what your research is, it's interesting. Well done. Dimitri's wrote, I have 3 parts to my message. Sorry about that. That's no problem. I tried to read it all out as best I could. Hannah's wrote, sort of Metals wrote to Hannah, you're right in my opinion. Hannah's wrote, teacher, can you get a spirit box app now? I probably wouldn't want to. Personally, I just wouldn't want to. I was lucky enough to do the Ouija board once, and I think that's enough for me. But people can buy spirit boxes. There's many. Sorry, it's lost connection. I don't know if it's because it overheats. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if I lost connection there. It overheats, I think, because I've been doing this a bit longer than I thought. But you can buy spirit boxes. I should do a video on people that have got a good track record of creating spirit boxes. You may have to pay 100 and 150 quid for them, but these are purposely built, and a lot of famous people, I'm not going to name their names, but supposedly a lot of famous people that are interested in this stuff have actually bought these spirit boxes off of these individuals that build them. So, and they get good results, apparently. Fake has wrote, okay, so what's the random shadows I see? Lucky I'm calm and don't scare easy. Yeah, so that could be, I don't know if you heard me earlier, that could be, in my opinion, the shadow people are just either either something that's happened in the future or something that's going to happen in the past. In other words, you're looking at if you rewind a videotape and press play, or go forward and press play, that's them, but you can't see them because it's just a sort of shadow of them. That's kind of my take on it until I get different information. I'm probably going to have to shoot soon because my phone keeps saying it's cutting out. It's on 7%, but I have got it plugged in and I think it's cutting out because it's overheating. So I'm just going to flick through to a couple of messages because I'm going to have to shoot. I did have dinner tonight, if anyone's interested, because yesterday I'd sort of left it till almost 10 before I had time to eat, because I did a live for 4 hours. Just scrolling down. Scamlets wrote, do you know anything about light energy beings present during World War II's nuking? No, I've not heard anything of. I'm guessing you're on about Hiroshima. I've heard the stories after, but not before or not during. Hannah's wrote, or Metals wrote to Hannah, the closing of the portal after a Ouija ball is very important. Sorry if I'm whizzing down, I'm just trying to get to the end. Thank you, AJ and A, for sending me the roses. I didn't see them earlier. Sometimes I do close my eyes and waffle on. Peach is telling Huggy how to write to me in a nice way, because I kind of need him in question format. Donna's wrote, I read from several psychic mediums years ago that there is no beginning, middle, or end. Yeah, that's what I was on about. So when I say they can see the past, present, and future, everything is happening now, which is crazy for us to understand. But yeah, I don't get it, but that's what they say. So well done. Hannah's wrote, never bored, teacher. Thank you very much. It's because of my stupid jokes, isn't it? Sorry. That was a bad joke and all. Aston's wrote, I seen a ghost last night, but doesn't carry on with anything there. AJ's wrote, it's very glitchy today. Sorry about that. I don't know. It's doing it again, isn't it? I can see it says lost connection. It is glitchy. Yeah. It just died again. Okay, I'm probably gonna have to shoot because it keeps. I don't know if you can hear me. It says unstable connection, so I don't want to. Yeah, okay, I'm back now. So it looks like it keeps cutting out. I don't know if it's because I'm overheating or whatever. I know there's many people here saying hello and stuff, but I was only supposed to do it an hour, and I think I've done 2.5 hours already. So I'm probably gonna have to shoot before it keeps cutting out as well. I don't want to cut you lot off, but I'll stick this one up on Spotify and all that kind of stuff, YouTube. So I know there's many more messages. I can see them as I'm sort of whizzing down, but I don't want it to keep cutting out, and I feel bad. So I'm going to probably leave you on this one, but thank you, everyone. If you're interested in any of my videos, if you've never heard me talk before, I cover all sorts of subjects: Bigfoot, Sumerians, Anunnaki, all that kind of stuff, Egyptians. And so I have a website called OurTrueHistory.co.uk, which is nice and easy to find the videos there, but you can scroll all the way back on TikTok, or I should really get this now, shouldn't I? The old patter, as they say. Or you can go on YouTube, which is Our True History on YouTube. And if you're really interested, I have a Patreon page that has longer videos talking about subjects that I don't cover here. And I put 2 new ones up today, actually. So if anyone's interested in that. So I'm going to have to go now, but thank you, everyone. I can see people saying goodbye. Thank you, and I'll catch you another time. I'm happy that you all joined today. Thank you very much, guys. Take care, everyone. Bye. Bye.